Milei, in a recent speech, made the point that the crisis is not economic but ethical. Although its manifestation is material, its root is spiritual. In this video, we'll explore Milei's ideas on the ethical crisis facing Argentina and the West.
One that has to deal with the crisis, which is a phrase by Murray Rothbard, the inventor of anarcho-capitalism, because this is central. This is central. He says, the crisis is not economic, but ethical. Although its manifestation is material, and root is spiritual, we are immersed in a philosophy, a terrible philosophy, that puts the individual as service to the state, exposed to the shadow of coercion. This is not a minor issue.
So what is this terrible philosophy that puts the individual at the service of the state and subjects him to coercion? Well, in the political realm, it goes by the name of socialism. Socialism, in all its forms, says that the individual has no rights. He's just a tool of the state. His only reason for existence is to further the goals of the state. Another word for this is slavery. A slave is someone who has no rights to his own body and his own labor. What's ironic is that the socialists go around screaming about slavery in the past while advocating slavery today. Of course, socialists always love to say, it's never been correctly implemented before. Every time it was tried, it wasn't done right, according to the socialists. When the Pilgrims came to the New World in 1620, they implemented a perfect socialist system, from each according to his ability and to each according to their need. You know what happened? The Pilgrims almost starved to death. It wasn't the Indians teaching them how to plant corn that saved them. It was the fact that they allowed each person to profit from their own labor, instead of stealing from each other. This proves that socialism is a moral crisis, and no one was more devoted to the ideas of socialism than the Pilgrims. Socialists love to conflate the virtue of charity with socialism. Nothing could be further from the truth. Real charity is a voluntary action. It's not something coerced by the state. Coercion by the state is called theft, but since they apply no limits to it, it's really slavery. Thus, we see the ethical crisis is the idea of glorifying slavery and theft. In this next clip, Milei talks about how economists try to create the optimal outcome, known as the Pareto outcome or optimum. He points out how this is flawed, and it doesn't take into account technological change. This flawed idea treats the economy like it's a machine that can be optimized. This means that the economy would have to be static. That's the only way you could optimize it. If it's dynamic, there's no way to optimize it. These absurd ideas are all based on mathematical models of the economy. Milei shows that what is just is optimal. What is efficient is just.
And it says, justice and efficiency are two sides of the same coin. The fair cannot be inefficient, and the efficient must always be fair. Notice that at some point, I talked about how politics in our government is guided by ethical and moral criteria. The general framework of ethical and moral that this government carries out is the definition of liberalism that Alberto Venegas has given to Enchicha. Therefore, I can put the economy on the dynamically optimal path without knowing anything about the economy, only by daring the fair, because the fair is efficient, and the only system that fulfills these characteristics is a system of free market capitalism. There is a beautiful book called Creativity, Capitalism, and Distributive Justice by an author called Israel Kachner, with a Z, not with a CH. Please. One of the things that Israel Kircher raises is a truly amazing thing. He says that the capitalist system is labeled as unfair, and he says, you know what? If the system is unfair, it is not worth defending it. I don't care if it is more productive. I don't care if it is more efficient. It is unfair. It cannot be defended. It is a giant of mud feet, and therefore it is unfair. If I am defending these ideas with so much impetus, it is because the book advances and using the principle of luck appropriation and Hayek's idea that the market is a process of discovery plus everything I talked about before about entrepreneurship. All this conjunction shows that the only system that is fair is free market capitalism. I stress free companies now, pro businessmen and power friends. Therefore, we go back to Rothbard's phrase, the crisis is an ethical problem.
Capitalism is not only the most productive economic system, but is the only ethical system. I think it's worth repeating what Milei's standard for an ethical system of government is. His definition comes from Professor Alberto Bangas Lynch Jr., who said, liberalism is the unrestricted respect for the life plan of one's neighbor, based on the principle of non-aggression and defense of the right to life, liberty, and property, whose fundamental institutions are private property, markets free from state intervention, free competition, the division of labor, and social cooperation. Milei quotes this definition from Lynch in multiple of his speeches. My only input is that I'm not in love with the principle of non-aggression. I'm empathetic to the sentiment. It's a shortcut to ethical philosophy. The principle of non-aggression only makes sense if you understand property rights correctly. Otherwise, it ends in endless contradictions. In this clip, Milei explains that capitalism is not only more productive, but also superior ethically because it's not based on theft, while socialism is based on hatred, envy, and resentment.
It is a cake that is being generative. In each market interaction, capitalism is not only much more productive, but it is also the only one that is fair. It is superior in ethically and morally because it treats everyone the same under the law, and it is also not based on theft. Therefore, in the face of this situation, you must find and face a system of values. The system of values of communism and socialism, or any version of socialism, are envy, hatred, and resentment, punishing the successful, stealing the fruit of work by force.
So capitalism is not only more productive and fair, it's just. And what is just is efficient, and what is efficient is just. One of the sleazy sleight of hands that socialists have pulled that almost never gets talked about is socialism is not social. Being social is based on voluntary interactions. Socialism is based on force and coercion, which means that socialism is an oxymoron and a fraud. It's a fraud that has killed hundreds of millions of people, perhaps billions of people, and it's now wanting to exterminate the human race. So let's throw off the yokes of this socialist slavery. Long live freedom, damn it.